I want to talk this morning about a sutta. A sutta is one of the discourses of the Buddha, what the Pali word for a discourse, and it's a short one. It's called the Rajan Sutta, or which is translated as the King. And I came across it a few years ago, and it just blew me away. I just really, really like it. And it's basically the story of King Pasanadi, who was in a lot of the suttas with the Buddha. And he and his wife, Queen Malika, were sitting one day chatting, and he asked her, he said, "Is there anyone more dear to you than yourself?" And she thought about it for a moment and she said, "No, there's no one more dear to me than myself." And then she said, "What about you?" And he said, "No, there's no one more dear to me than myself." And later that afternoon, the king went over to see the Buddha where he was, and he told him about the conversation. And the Buddha thought about it, and then he said, "Searching all directions with one's awareness, one finds no one dearer than oneself. In the same way, others are fiercely dear to themselves. So one should not hurt others if one loves oneself." And I think there's a twofold lesson in this sutta, and I want to talk about, I'll talk about both of them, but the first piece of it is the one that knocked me over when I read it, because when I first read it and I heard the king say, "So is there anyone more dear to you than yourself?" I was ready for her to say, "My kids, you, the kingdom, everybody else but me. Y'all are better, more dear to me than me." And when she said, like I said, I was flabbergasted by that. Because how can you believe that and actually say it out loud? Or maybe you believe it, but Lord, you can't admit it, because for many of us, not all of us, many of us were brought up in a culture of not quite enough, or don't be so self-centered, don't be so selfish, because if you think, "Oh, I did that well," it's like, "Oh, who do you think you are?" And how many times did we get rebuked as kids or as adults, even today? People go, "When, who do you think you are?" Kids are good at that, aren't they? And it leads to this sense of either false humility or a real self-doubt, a real belief that maybe we're not quite enough. And we live in a culture that says we're actually not quite enough. Marginalized folks get that head on wherever, people who are different in any way, shape, or form from the dominant archetype get that. But even it's always one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. You can always do better. Can't you be a little bit more productive? Can't you do a little bit more? Come on, come on, come on. And it moves into our brains, and it moves into how we move through the world. And it kind of goes along with that, for how many of us it's really difficult to do loving kindness practice, metta practice for self, to do those heart practices. Anybody ever have trouble with that? That offering of, "May I be at ease, may I be happy, and sometimes it's like we twitch because it's like so counter, it goes so against so much of what we've learned in this world. And I remember the first time I read about the question that Sharon Salzberg asked of the Dalai Lama at one of the international Buddhist meetings back in the 90s. And she asked him about people who had challenges offering metta to themselves because there was so much self-loathing. And the Dalai Lama had absolutely no idea what she was talking about, which gave me hope, because that told me it wasn't just built in, it was probably a little bit more cultural, or had some kind of conditioning around it. And I went, "Oh, not everybody has this not good enough, doesn't fit in on the outside looking in, whatever it is. But when we get stuck in that place, it can be really bleak. I remember talking to friends about how that those old stories just keep coming up, coming up, coming up. It's like, oh, I got invited. They got invited to a party. I didn't get invited to a party. What does that mean? What do I have to do? The mind, this solidified that we don't question sometimes. It's just kind of like this channel that's in the background, when you're doing chores and you've got the radio on or the whatever the streaming is in the background. But it's there saying that stuff. And we're socialized a lot of times to think small. And Pema Chodron talks about it. She says it's this sense of lack. Oftentimes there's a sense of lack, and it's this sense of lack that makes mudita so difficult. If you know what mudita is, it's again one of the heart practices. It's this joy at the wholesome good fortune of others. Oh, you won the lottery. I'm so happy for you. Or you got a job, or you're getting married, or you had a baby, or whatever it is that you are joyful about. And to be joyful for that person is really a difficult practice, or can be a difficult practice, because we live in a world of zero-sum game. If you get yours, is there going to be enough for me? I remember at work when one of my coworkers would get a pat on the head, and I'd be outside it'd be like, oh yay, and inside be like, oh, are they gonna don't they see me? It gets to be so painful. It can be so painful when we have this doubt and self-recrimination, or whatever stories we've grown up with around it. And it leads to all this. We get caught in wanting, or how do I make sure that they see me and not that person? Or how do we get caught in greed or aversion or just lost? It just fuels this reactivity, I read something somewhere. It's like, this is not a pie. We don't run out of slices, but we work that way. We think that's what's going on. And it becomes really difficult to be in our own skin sometime. And it's I remember thinking about people who do have this sense of their own worth. And athletes, I think about athletes a lot, because they are, they go, yeah, I can't think of a quote, but they're like, yeah, I'm good. I got this. They have this confidence. I'm a nerd. So I was listening to a baseball podcast on the way out here, and they were talking about winning teams have that swagger, because they just know they have the talent to get it done. Whereas I come from a place of somebody said, good job. And I would say, oh, if I could do it, anybody could do it. That self-deprecating fear of being seen as egotistical. And I was also listening to the radio, and there was a Ringo Starr song, and one of the songs goes, when I was a baby, my mother said, you're great. And then he sings throughout the whole song of everybody telling him, you're great. And I'm like, you didn't grow up where I grew up. I don't know if that's true, but it's like, wouldn't that be nice? And some of us do have that, but then sometimes it doesn't sink in that you should hold yourself dear, and there is the wisdom, the discernment to see that there is a difference between this self-love and this self-care for ourselves and selfishness. There's a distinction, because there's the element of greed in going, I deserve everything. And then, of course, that's a bananas example, but to have this mind, because I deserve it just because instead of recognizing the balance. And it's like, no, this is where equanimity comes in. We have this broad perspective, this appropriate response to what's happening. Oh, I remember it took me years. I'm really organized, and I'm really good at organizing stuff. It took me years to say, I'm good at organizing. for fear, and this is probably a lot of my own stuff of being, oh, you're so whatever people. So that fear of not thinking ourselves good, not thinking or taking care of ourselves. I was talking to a friend the other day because she's going through a lot of health stuff, and she was talking about how hard it is to lay down when her body says lay down. And she's like, no, I have to keep going. And it's like, if you're trying to get better and your body's saying lay down, maybe you should lay down if you can. And she can. And I was saying, because I used to excavate in Syria, and it was always really a long season and a lot of hours, and we were working 7 days a week and a long trip back. And I would say, if I got back on a Wednesday, I wouldn't tell anybody. I'd say, I'm getting back on Saturday, so I could have 3 days just to chill and sleep and recuperate. And I was laughing with her about that because she does the same kind of thing. We lie to people because we don't know how to take care of ourselves. Instead of saying, you know what, I get back on Wednesday, but you know what, give me a couple of days to recuperate. People care. They go, yeah, of course. But it's like, oh no, whatever it is. And so, but we have to begin to treat ourselves with kindness, treat ourselves with compassion, because it's not out there. We can't wait for it to come from out there, because that's where the craving is. Y'all need to fix me. If you would just do it right. Oh, if y'all would just do it right, you too on Zoom, if you would just do it right, then I'd be okay. But it's not. We have to learn how to do it. And the Buddha talks about love all the time. In the sutta, he talked about it. And there's another couple of suttas that have some great things. And he says, abandoning the killing of beings, gentle and kindly, he abides compassionate to all living beings. And we have to remember that we are included in all living beings, which I think is the key, because how often do you put yourself outside that circle? And the Metta Sutta talks about that. I love the Metta Sutta. It says, where is it? It says, all beings, weak, strong, great, mighty, medium, short, tall, seen, unseen, near, far, born and to be born, omitting none, we radiate kindness, including ourselves. So we have to begin to take care of ourselves, to be gentle with ourselves. There's a book by a woman named Tricia Hersey, and it's called Rest is Resistance. She has what's called the Nap Ministry. She's the Nap Minister, and it's like, hold on, we get to take care of ourselves, however that looks, because we care for ourselves. We hold ourselves dear. And how do we take care of folks we hold dear? We're gentle, we're kind. We bring the Brahma Viharas to play, the loving kindness, the compassion, the gentleness, the equanimity. The Buddha says when we practice enough, the mind and the heart are imbued with those 4 qualities. So important. And there's another teaching that I find that supports this. When the Buddha, which I found, again, the first time I heard it, I was at a retreat many years ago, and I was like, whoa. It's the story of the Buddha's enlightenment, and the Mara, who's the personification of greed, hatred, and ignorance, was just throwing stuff at the Buddha, going, no, armies, sensual temptations. And the Buddha's like, I see you. I know exactly what's going on here. I see exactly what's happening. And then the Mara came to the Buddha and said, who the hell do you even think you are? I'm paraphrasing. And this is where the famous image is, and it's not in, and even in this Buddha, he's got his hand down on the ground, and the earth bears witness to him, saying, yeah, just because I am worthy Just because I exist, the earth bears witness for each of us. We can hold ourselves dear. Hold ourselves dear. I found that was so powerful, and we have to begin to let go of the ideas that we're not good enough, or whatever those old stories are. I heard Angela Davis in she's in a webinar a few months ago, and she said, we have to be bigger than we think we are. We have to take up space. And I think that's kind of the ideal of the Bodhisattva. You know, beings are numberless. I vow to save them. You know, suffering is endless. I vow to end it. That's huge. That's some belief in capacity. And the equanimity is to recognize it's like, oh, maybe I can't do that, but I can do this. To have a clarity, wise view about who we are and how we show up. It doesn't mean we don't take accountability for when we cause harm at all. We are fully present and aware with what we're doing. And we recognize that we're taking care of ourselves. So that is really the first piece of this, that, you know, with one's awareness, one finds no one dearer than oneself, searching in all directions. We find no one dearer than oneself. But the second part of that is, in the same way, others are fiercely dear to themselves, so one should not hurt others if one loves oneself. And so the twofold teaching is that we have to recognize that others are deserving of the same care that we are. This is the Metta Sutta, all beings, omitting none. And the first precept, or wise action in the Eightfold Path, the first precept is abstain from the taking of life, but also abstain from hurting, causing harm. And the Buddha in one of the suttas says, the disciple not only avoids destroying life, but dwells with a heart full of care, desiring the welfare of all beings. And again, it doesn't mean we don't hold other people accountable for their actions, absolutely, but we care. I say this all the time, and I know when I go to airports, I get very judgy. And I was, you really need that big a suitcase? That's my big one. Really, look at my little carry-on for 2 weeks, okay? Very judgy. So I remember the first time I was at a layover in Atlanta, I think, and I all of a sudden realized I was doing that. And then I went, oh, I forgot. I love all of you. And it's a shift. It is absolutely challenging. It is absolutely challenging. I also have heard teachers say, just imagine everyone else is a Buddha, but not you. It's the same kind of thing. It's shifting. Oh, I have this care for others. We desire the welfare of all beings. And Bhikkhu Bodhi writes this line in his book. He has a book, The Noble Eightfold Path. It's a little book, and it's a great explanation of the Eightfold Path. And for this piece, he says, it's grounded in the consideration that all beings love life, that all seek happiness and are averse to pain. That's what we're grounded in. And what I have found to be true, and I have heard other people say it who have done this practice, is the more we can be compassionate, kind, take care of ourselves, the more we can be kind, compassionate, and care for others. It actually has an impact on the brain. When we practice compassion for ourselves, it activates some particular parts of the brain that I can't remember what they are, but the empathy shows up, and we have the mirror neurons activated, and we start, recognizing that we're all human beings. we're all worthy of this care. We want to honor that in our hearts. And as we go through the world, and it is challenging, but I have to emphasize that recognition that it doesn't mean we give people a pass for the harm they cause. It's not that at all. It's, I don't want to carry that, hatred in my heart, because that doesn't do anything for me. How do I soften to whatever it is? And so I think remembering it is not easy to do these things, but it's so worthwhile because there's a sense of ease. And when we have it, there's a sense of connection with others as well. I got gasped this morning on my way here. And this guy pulled up next to me at a light and he was like, and so I rolled down my window and he said, "Guest door open." And I went, and I had left my gas door open and I went, "Oh, thank you." And I was practically in tears for the kindness of this stranger who said, "Guest door open." And I was like, "Ew." It's so sweet. And for coming from someone who was like, "What? Nobody's getting in. I'm not getting out. I am a rock." Paul Simon, the Simon and Garfunkel song. It's like, wow, that invitation to connection and be part of the world around us. Because that's what we are. We are connected. Thich Nhat Hanh calls it inter-are, our interbeing. There's such a gift there. But it stems from this willingness to care for ourselves. Find no one dearer than oneself. And just as others are, and believe that others are fiercely dear to themselves, whether they know it or not, that's the other thing. A lot of people don't take care of themselves either. So there's compassion that arises. So one should not hurt others if one loves oneself. It's the golden rule, in other words, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. There's such a grounded, a spiritual foundation that's so universal. I'm on the board of an interfaith organization, so I get to hear other people talk about a lot of their teachings, and I'm always impressed by the universality of the beautiful teachings of love and care and generosity, and which is what the Buddha teaches over and over and over again. So I invite you, what I always try and remember to do is invite you to see what gets in the way. What gets in the way of you caring for yourself in this way? That's always, I bet, I know a lot of people can say, well, here's all the reasons why. But the thing about it is none of this is conditional. This care, this loving kindness, this compassion is unconditional. It's absolutely unconditional. So if you struggle with it, I invite you to see what's in the way without judgment. I mean, it's just conditioning. We can't help our conditioning, but we can help is how we deal with it or work with it in this moment. It's wise speech. What's the stuff in your head telling you? Can you get rid of some of that, trash talk? Or whatever it is, we're all different. So it shows up differently for each of us. I was talking about this last night, and a woman was saying that she doesn't have any problem caring for herself, but the idea of the more we care for ourselves, the more we can care for others was somewhat new. And so I invite you to investigate where you are with this. Because I believe it's really important and a powerful way to be in the world. So, we don't get it overnight. I'm not dead. I'm not done. That's my line. Okay, that's the next tattoo. I'm not dead. I think I said that last time I was here. I haven't done it yet. So find your way with this. I invite you to find your care. And again, searching all directions with one's awareness, one finds no one dearer than oneself. In the same way, others are fiercely dear to themselves. So one should not hurt others if one loves oneself. So thank you so much, my friends, and I hope this has been of some benefit. Are there any questions or comments or thoughts? And if you do have a question, remember, I'm going to have to repeat it. So be kind to me. Thank you. So thank you so much, my friends, for being here. It's always a delight to be with you. I know I'll be back here on the 4th of May, for our birthday, and I'm not sure who will be here next week. We have 3 other groups. We have Tuesday night, meditation is refuge, and then Wednesday evening peer led sit, and then Ian's metta on Friday afternoon. Those are all on Zoom. Once again, reminder about Donna. You can make a donation to Insight Community of the Desert. There's 2 baskets, the other one for me. There's a way to do it via PayPal. There's a QR code, I believe, there. Volunteering. It's so much fun. Thank you, Mimi, today for all your help. And it's really, you don't even have to set up the chairs or take them down. They do it for you. My cell's often awesome here. So it's just about putting out the baskets and helping to count the money at the end. And we really, I think, how many of you can sign up for one day over the next one Sunday in the next month? Can anybody sign up for, all right, anybody else? We got 4 people, great. Don't forget to put your name down there. Find a date, put your name down, and yay us, because we're all in this together. So, and if you want to volunteer, let us know and we'll find something for you to do online. So, I want to read in closing something that Ian wrote, sharing the merit. Ian wrote this. Going forth into this world so in need of light, may I bring all the kindness and wisdom I embody to each being and each situation that I meet. May the power of my practice today strengthen my resolve to be an agent of peace and justice in this world. Going forth together into this world so in need of light, may we together bring all the kindness and wisdom we embody to each being and each situation that we meet. May the power of our practice today strengthen our resolve to be agents of peace and justice in this world. We dedicate our practice for the liberation of all beings, the great, the small, the wise, the ignorant, the powerful, and the powerless. May all beings be liberated from sorrow and loss, hatred and injustice, scarcity and want, and every form of suffering. May our practice today be a prayer for peace, and may it benefit all beings without exception. Thank you, my friends. I will see you next time. Much love.